Hello and happy Friday. Welcome to our second evening of Taste of Hope, our week-long celebration of DuPage pads and our delicious and delightful activities. Tonight we're doing mixology with Kris Boulahanis, and we're so excited to be spending another evening with you as we try out some classic cocktails. I want to begin again by thanking all of you so much for joining us. It means a great deal to us and for those in our care. We want to thank our sponsors, our guests, our host committee, everyone who's doing our demonstrators and our restaurants for making this possible. And again, thank you to Tammy Weir, our chairperson, who's been incredible through all of this. We especially want to thank our diamond sponsors, who are Power Equipment Direct, who's been a long-standing sponsor of ours and a very kind friend to DuPage Pads, and our new diamond sponsor, Morgan Stanley Financial Advisors, led by Tom McGee. Your generosity is making our work possible, and we're so grateful for you.
That is absolutely right, April. And I'm going to pull up on screen here for just a moment to also thank those gold sponsors that we have too, that we're so grateful for. We just want to say thank you, of course, to Coldwell Banker, First Trust, Schulte and Cleland, Benjamin Edwards & Co., and of course, West Suburban Bank for their sponsorships, and really to all of our sponsors for being a part of tonight. In addition to our sponsors, we want to give you some great reminders about the fun activities we have planned this week. So if you haven't had the opportunity to, make sure that you go to your guest page. You should have received an email with the links today, allowing you for easy access all week long to the events that we have taking place. Winner, Taste of Hope dinner, and some fantastic auction prizes, one of which has actually been donated by Kris, our host tonight, so you can get a hold of some of the incredible spirits that we're going to be demoing here in just a moment. We want to make sure to remind you too, please go to the Facebook Taste of Hope event page. Click on the fact that you're going and then share your home selfies of the fun that you're having with us, and we're so glad that you're here. And if you haven't had a chance yet, for those of you watching, be sure to click that subscribe button on YouTube. That will help us continue to keep great content coming your way. And with that, we want to bring our guests onto the screen to join us here tonight. We have Nick Howard, one of our Taste of Hope committee members, and the Howard family. Thank you so much for being here and joining us tonight. And then, of course, we have our host with the most, the main event, Kris, the cool cocktail guy, who's going to be showing us how it's done. Kris, thanks so much for joining us here tonight.
Yeah, thank you guys very much for having me. First disclaimer of the evening, there probably will be many. The cool cocktail guy is not an official title. That is self-proclaimed. There is literally no backing to that. So hopefully I don't let you guys down with this, but we should have some fun. I got some classic cocktails that I'm going to walk you guys through how to make. I think that in the past year, while everybody has been locked in their house, one thing really unites us, and that's the fact that most people at home do not know how to make a cocktail. So hopefully this is something that you guys can all benefit from. A little bit of background on myself. I was kind of raised in this business. I've been in the spirits business for about 15 years. I have not stepped behind a bar in about 12 of those years. So I want to thank Chad very quickly for the order of cocktails that he assigned this evening of the 4 that I gave him, because the first is by far and away the strongest, stiffest drink that we're going to have this evening. After that, I imagine anything I say will be forgiven, and we'll go from there. That being said, let's jump in, right? It's Friday night, happy hour. Let's have a cocktail. So first step, before we even get started, whatever cocktail glass you are serving, this is a classic martini that we're going to talk about first. I like to chill the glass before you even make the cocktail, okay? Fill it, whatever glass you're going to serve in. It could be a rocks glass. It could be a martini glass. It could be anything. Throw some ice in there first before we get started. And then we'll start actually building the cocktail. The first actual cocktail that we are going to make, it is made famous by the one and only James Bond. So I don't know if we have any Bond fans out there, but this is really a fantastic way to elevate your skill set of a classic martini, a dirty martini, a dry martini. It's really a way to add complexity to that cocktail and hopefully impress the guests that you guys are trying to entertain while you are making these. Or if you're drinking by yourself, like I said, it's the stiffest cocktail there is, and it's going to do the job very quickly. So I'm going to make it in a mixing glass. James Bond is very famous for ordering his martinis shaken, not stirred. If you talk to a mixologist, I am not a mixologist. I'm not taking myself seriously or offended by anything that you guys do here tonight. I don't care what you do. If you make the cocktail the way I make it, great. If you don't, as long as you like it, great. Among the mixology community, though, shaking a drink that is spirit forward like this is essentially a sin. Really what they want to do is spirit forward cocktails. You stir fruit juice and acidic cocktails you really want to shake. You get a lot more dilution like that. This one, all you want to do is chill the cocktail, mix the ingredients together, pour it into the cocktail syrup that you're going to do. So first up, I'm going to take a couple of these big ice cubes, put them into my mixing glass. And the building blocks of a Vesper Martini are gin, vodka, and Lillet Blanc. So I'm going to use Plymouth Gin. It's one of my absolute favorites. It is a London-style dry gin. It is one of the oldest active distilleries in the world. It's the Blackfriar Distillery in London, in Plymouth, England, just outside of London. So the cocktail calls for 3 parts gin. This is by far, in my opinion, for somebody making cocktails at home, the most important thing that you can use. Biggest mistake anybody makes is try to eyeball their pours. It's a cocktail jigger. I see April is looking closer at the screen. It's a cocktail jigger. All it does is tell you exactly what you're pouring into the cocktail. So the basics of building a cocktail are balance. That's it. You need to be balanced. You need to hit the measurements. It's more like baking than it is like cooking. So 3 parts. That big side is 2 parts. This side, 1 part. All done with the Plymouth Gin. Next up is Elite Vodka. I'm going to hold it closer so you guys can see.
Kris, one more time. Tell us the mix. We're behind here. One more time, please, for people who are lazy.
So far, we've done 3 ounces of gin. Okay. Next up, we're going to Elite Vodka. This is Stoli Elite. This is recently coming off of its 10th victory as the best tasting vodka in the world, according to the Beverage Testing Institute. If you haven't had this before, go pick up a bottle of it. Or if you're bidding on silent auction raffle items, this is one of the spirits that's in there. So take advantage of that. We're going to do 1 part of Stoli Elite.
That would explain why we found that it was backordered at 3 stores when we went to try to find it, Kris. So we're substituting tonight, but we're bidding on that auction package.
It is growing like wildfire. It's doing very, very well. And then Lillet Blanc. This is basically a fancier version of a dry vermouth. So I know I'm using specific ingredients here. If you don't have Plymouth Gin, Elite Vodka, that's okay. Whatever gin, whatever vodka you guys have, you can build this cocktail. You don't want to have a New World gin that is really fruit forward in this because it's going to take away from the actual components of the cocktail. But pretty much any one of a true old world gins and a vodka will work. Lillet you can replace with any kind of dry vermouth. This is a classic French spirit that it's changed a little bit over the last 100 years. It is one of the oldest French spirits still in production, but they've removed a lot of the bitterness out of this spirit particularly. So in the 1/2 ounce of Lillet or dry vermouth that you're adding to this cocktail, I like to supplement that with a couple of dashes of Angostura bitters. I use Peychaud's. Essentially the same thing. It's an aromatic bitter. Okay, so this is basically just going to add really nice color first and foremost, and some of that bitterness that you lost in the changed formulation of the blend. So just 2 dashes of that. And then again, for me, I'm not going to shake the cocktail. If you want to shake the cocktail, like I said, you're not offending anybody. You're just going to dilute it more. You'll get a little bit more water content in that cocktail. There's nothing wrong with that. All we want to do, though, is we want to chill it, and we want to combine the ingredients within the glass. Okay. Typically, when you're stirring a cocktail like this, I mean, if you go to a really, really fancy mixology joint, they're going to sit there and they're going to stir like this in front of you for 40 seconds. You don't need to. It's just kind of obnoxious. I feel like they like to make people wait. It's like the anxiousness for the next cocktail while they're standing there. The build-up, I guess, gets people to enjoy it more, think the place is cooler than it actually is. I don't know. But you don't need to stir it for 40 seconds. Just stir it until it's cold. Again, I already have ice in the cocktail glass because I want to go from a cold environment to a cold environment. Now you just have regular chilled martini coupe. Take my strainer. I'm just going to pour straight into that cocktail glass. You guys can see beautiful pink hue on that cocktail. That is essentially from the bitters. And then because we're making cocktails, we're not just making drinks. Got to have the proper garnish. So I'm going to take a lemon twist. That is our first cocktail. That's a Vesper Martini. I forgot to bring water, so I'm definitely going to drink some of it. I hope you guys don't mind.
Thanks, Kris. Kris, I have a question.
Please.
So if martini is James Bond's signature drink, what is your favorite Bond film?
Honestly, I'm a big fan of Daniel Craig, which people will probably get upset with me about. I'm a millennial. I don't know what to tell you. I would definitely say that Casino Royale was my favorite. It really kind of reignited that. I think it brought a new generation into the Bond films. That's where he ordered the Vesper the first time. I was very into the character Vesper. I thought she was a very attractive woman. It is what it is, you know? Everybody has their own reasons for what they like.
At least you're honest.
Yeah, there you go.
He's nothing but that, that's for sure.
To a fault, I would say. So that's the Vesper. I hope you guys enjoy it. I'll give you a minute to catch up.
Cheers.
Cheers to all of our viewers out there. That is delicious and refreshing. Thank you, Kris.
It gives a punch. Definitely.
Mine looks like a Chardonnay because this is the only glass we have. So there we go. So I have the Martini Chardonnay.
Nick is drinking Chardonnay. Let's all be real. Nick is definitely just drinking Chardonnay. I get it. It's okay. So that's James Bond's signature drink. Next up is probably my signature drink. This is I'm a pretty simple guy. I typically go out and I'll either drink a rye on the rocks or a tequila on the rocks. But if I'm going to drink a cocktail, a really well put together old fashioned is what I live for. That's the end all be all in cocktails, in my opinion. If you can make one drink at home, this is the one that you need to be able to make. So again, I'm not going to chill this glass this time because it's going to be poured over ice, but this is the glassware that I'm using for it. It's an old fashioned glass. It's basically a rocks glass with a heavier bottom, a little bit smaller than a traditional rocks glass, because a old fashioned is not a big cocktail. It's a very simple cocktail. The basics of it are spirit, sugar, bitters, water. So you can really play off of an old fashioned. Tonight I'm going to make a bourbon old fashioned. You can make agave old fashions with añejo tequilas, with mezcals. You can make rum old fashions. Anything that you want to do, as long as it really hits those 4 criteria, can be considered an old fashioned. So give me a second to spill this. We have one glass. I'm going to clean this one out real quick. Should have done that while I was talking. Apologize. Again, you're going to build it in the cocktail glass, or this one you can build it in a rocks glass if you don't have a mixing jar. Okay. So I'm going to start with ice cubes in here again. First things first, a traditional old fashioned, most of the time they would put granulated sugar into the bottom. They would put an orange, they would put cherry, they would put some bitters and muddle that together to break up some of the juices out of the cherry, out of the orange. And then you would build over that base. In my opinion, the granularity of actual sugar in the bottom of your glass, it never really blends regardless of how well you stir. So it's always going to settle to the bottom of the glass. When you get, old fashions are meant to be sipped, not drank as fast as I typically do. So over the course of 20 minutes or 30 minutes, I'm not really sure what the appropriate amount of time is. I'm saying something that's as long as it takes me. Over the course of however long it is that you should be drinking an old fashioned, which is responsible in the eyes of the public, I guess. That sits at the bottom, and as you continue drinking it, it's just going to get sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. So I don't really like to use actual granulated sugar. So what I did, and I called out simple syrup. Simple syrup you could buy at any store. I have it right here. Stirring simple syrup. If you don't have simple syrup, it's very, very easy to make at home. There you go. Nick's got the same one. If you don't have it, all you have to do is equal parts sugar, equal parts water. You heat it up, You stir it until the sugar dissolves. And that's exactly what you need to make simple syrup. So you cool it back down. What I made here is Demerara syrup. Demerara is basically sugar, except it's raw sugar. It adds a little bit of different flavors to the cocktail, in my opinion. A little bit more toffee, a little bit less just processed sugar, in my opinion. I really like what it brings out in the cocktail, so this is what I did. It's the exact same thing. It's 1-to-1, or if you want it to be ultra concentrated, you can make it 2-to-1. I make it 2-to-1. You're going to go...
Kris, for those of us who don't have simple syrup in a bottle at home and we need to make it, how much do we need at the end?
Honestly, you only need 1/2 ounce.
Okay.
So a very, very small amount. Otherwise, this cocktail will become uber sweet. You don't want that. So I'm going to use my Demerara syrup. It's a thick consistency, so bear with me.
You said 1/2 ounce.
1/2 ounce. I'm going to pour that directly over an orange wedge because I still do like the orange. I'm not muddling. I don't want to break up any of that fruit in there. I like what the actual fruit and some of the rind, some of the oils off of the rind, I like what they deliver for a cocktail. I'm not going to do anything to break that up. Okay. Then again, cut through some of that sweetness, bitters. This is one of the core components of an old fashioned. Okay. So I like bitters. I'm going to go 4. Traditional cocktail usually calls for 3, but I like to cut through the sweetness, especially when I'm adding something as deep as a Demerara syrup. And then I am going to use Kentucky Owl Confiscated. Kentucky Owl Confiscated is Kentucky Owl in general is one of the most celebrated bourbons out there. It is a brand that was brought back to life by a guy named Dixon Dedman in 2014 after about 103 years out of business. His great-great-grandfather founded a distillery back in the late 1800s, and he made Kentucky Owl bourbon up until Prohibition. And as soon as Prohibition hit, the U.S. federal government came in, said, you're selling and producing a contraband item. We need to confiscate everything that you have on your premises. It was 450,000 barrels. It was a significant amount of product. It was It was a small fortune that this guy was sitting on. They took it all. It's all high proof spirit. When it's sitting in a barrel, it's about 125 proof. So if it ignites, it'll burn for days. It doesn't just go out. If it catches on fire, it burns for days. 2 days after they confiscated it, they came back and they said, your entire allotment, your entire allocation has burned to the ground. Everything is gone. We're sorry. So basically they robbed the Dedman family of their entire fortune, their legacy, everything. So Dixon came back. And his first expression that he wanted to bring out to the everyday public, he called Confiscated, basically as an homage to what the U.S. government stole from him.
Wow.
Bourbon
so this package, Kris, you were kind enough to include a bottle with. And the thing I found really interesting is when we went searching for it, this bottle is not something you grab off of a shelf. They had this set up in a glass case. Someone had to come over and explain to you a little bit more about it. And the package number 803, for anyone who wants to bid at home, the value of this bottle was how much, Kris?
It's $129.99.
Wow.
Not an easy find. So it's really cool.
Kris, what did we put in?
Sorry? It's 2 ounces of bourbon.
Okay.
So 1/2 ounce of simple syrup, 3 dashes of bitters, 2 ounces of bourbon. I like to stir it over an orange. You don't have to do that. And then you're just going to go ahead and you're going to stir again.
And if we don't have bourbon available and we were looking to make a virgin-friendly drink, is there another supplement that we might want to include?
So this one was a little tricky on the non-alcoholic front, but I did reach out to a few of my friends in the industry who I know have gone that direction, and I have enjoyed many of these in their past. And they actually told me that they've started steeping vanilla or barley-based teas, and they put those in the fridge, and they'll use those in place of bourbon with the same build outside of that. So basically, you steep one of those teas, either like a vanilla amber tea or a barley-based tea, throw it into the fridge, let it cool for a couple of hours, and then build this cocktail the exact same way that I am right now. and you're going to end up with a pretty delicious non-alcoholic old fashioned.
That's awesome. That's genius. Thank you very much for sharing.
We're
Yeah, my
totally trying
pleasure.
that in my household, not tonight, but soon.
So for this one, again, you want whatever ice you can find in the glass, because you want it into a cold environment. You want it over ice. As that ice melts, it'll dilute the spirit. It'll add that water component that you need, the fourth component in the cocktail. Grab your strainer, pour it over. And then for the garnish on this one, I don't know if you guys have it or not, but Luxardo cherries. Honestly, I would put these things into pretty much every cocktail that I ever make because they are absolutely delicious. I know I go through way too many of these things. Traditionally, it's a maraschino cherry. Luxardo just does it much, much better. So I'll grab a Luxardo, wrap it around an orange peel, drop this into the old fashioned. And there's our old fashioned. Cheers. Again, no water. I have to do it. I don't have any choice.
Cheers to everyone watching. Thank you so much for tuning in to Taste of Hope Week. Kris, thank you for the second delicious cocktail. This is right up my alley. Just watching you make it, I can tell how good it's going to be.
I agree. I'm going to keep this one up here.
I don't have your fancy stirrers, so I just stirred with my kitchen knife, but I think it's going to work out.
That works. Any of the tools that I'm using up here, honestly, you can put it in a pitcher and you could do the exact same thing with this. I'm using a muddler in the next cocktail. If you need to use the back end of a wooden spoon, that's fine. Again, none of this has to be a particular way. Really, all it comes down to is you need to use the same measurements to build a cocktail.
Cheers. Cheers to you, Kris. Thanks again.
You just need to enjoy it. Cheers.
Kris, those cherries are delicious. My 11-year-old's going to eat that whole jar.
Go ahead.
Kris, I was going to ask you though, it's interesting because I've never made it with the old fashioned with the simple syrup. I've always used just straight up sugar. And I have to say, obviously, I really like the simple syrup much better. It's much smoother.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, when they originally started making old fashions, the places that would serve it would bring a little dessert spoon out for you because at the end of your cocktail, you'd end up eating the sugar out and scooping the sugar out like that. It's the truly old fashioned way of doing it. It's not wrong. It's still a good cocktail. It's still, if I go to an old school steakhouse, they still make it that way. I'm still going to enjoy it, but progress is progress. And I think that there's a better way to do it. So the simple syrup is a nice little addition.
Very cool.
Next up, we're sticking with whiskey, which is fine by me. That's, and this honestly, for anybody that's groaning out there about a second in a row whiskey cocktail, this is probably the cocktail that will bring in the most non-whiskey drinkers to the whiskey arena, in my opinion. This is called the Whiskey Smash. Again, only a whiskey smash because I'm choosing to use whiskey. You can pretty much make a smash out of anything. The focus is real seasonal fresh fruit juice. Essentially what it is a julep with some fruit juice. So the basics of it are mint, fruit juice, and whatever your base spirit is, and simple syrup. Okay, so it's a very simple cocktail. Again, that's really what I'm trying to focus on. Are simple cocktails for people who are drinking at home, entertaining at home. Just give you a few things in your arsenal. So what we're going to start with is a cocktail shaker on this one. We're done with the mixing glass. So grab a cocktail shaker. This is a Boston shaker. If you have one with the cap on it, that's fine. If you don't have a shaker and you want to use 2 pint glasses and pour them back and forth, it's not ideal, but it's fine. What we're going to do, and this is where I got in trouble with my run through initially yesterday with my wife, because I kept saying the word chunk, and chunk is not an approved measurement. I know there's a handful of people out there right now that probably just took a shot because I said it. We're going to start with some chunks of lemon, okay? So there's an easy way of cutting it, all right? The first thing you want to do is you always want to cut off the butts of the lemon, or ends of the lemon. I don't know what the proper term for that is either.
You have another word now to add to your list.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that honestly, the people who were giving me a little bit of grief about this, I think they were trying to find a reason to take shots, and really they just wanted to get a little bit extra sauced up, which is fine. It's Friday night. It's Friday night. It's fine.
Chris, do you realize we are 1 year away from the beginning, the last weekend before the pandemic started? So there's another reason for us to celebrate.
Yeah, that's something. Okay, so I got the ends cut off of the lemon. I'm going to cut it straight down the equator. All right, so straight down the middle of this thing. Then you got 2 equal parts of the lemon. You're going to take 1 part, put it on the flat side, do a cross section. Okay. So essentially, what you should end up with is 4 little pieces that look like this.
4 chunks. 4 chunks.
4 chunks, if you will.
That makes sense.
Throw that into the bottom of your cocktail shaker. And then you got to grab some fresh mint. All right. I like mint. The actual recipe of a smash calls for six leaves. You can use as much as you want. If you want it to be real mint forward, like I do, put a little bit more in there. If you're not sure if you love mint, put a little bit less in there. Doesn't really matter. It's personal preference. Like I said, I like mint, so I'm going to keep going. And then you're going to use simple syrup. This time I'm using regular simple syrup. It's 1 ounce for those of you guys who don't have this. So with the Demerara from the last cocktail, it pairs really nicely with whiskeys, with more vanilla forward spirits. Simple syrup like this that doesn't have as identifiable characteristics as the Demerara does blends really nicely with this, where you want it just to be a supportive piece of the cocktail and not really the star of the show. So, like I said, 1 ounce of simple syrup. Into that cocktail shaker. And then I'm going to use a muddler. Doesn't matter if it's got the bumps on the bottom or if it's got just the flat surface. Flat surface would actually be a little bit better for this because you don't really want to tear up the mint. You want it to just release the oils. So you want to juice the lemon. You want to release the oils from this thing. Don't go crazy. Now that you have the simple syrup, lemons, and mint in there, you basically just want to lightly press. All right. You just want to juice it, break up the oils from the mint.
So you just work out the stress from the week and muddling everything together, right?
You're not angry with it. You're just disappointed. Okay, and then we are. I probably should have had some kind of ice out here, but that's okay. Put some ice into your cocktail shaker, and then again, Kentucky Owl Confiscated or whatever kind of bourbon you have. All right. My opinion, a heavy rye bourbon like Confiscated is pairs much more nicely with a cocktail like this. A wheated bourbon, an overly sweet bourbon, it's not really going to cut through as much. Or a really light-bodied bourbon, an 80-proof bourbon, it's not going to stand up in this cocktail. So a high-proof bourbon like Confiscated and a high rye bourbon like Confiscated is really going to cut through and it's really going to stand up in this cocktail. You want to do 2 ounces of this.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to close your shaker, pop your hand on top of it. This is if you ever take a bartending class, a mixology lesson, if you watch bartenders on YouTube or anything like that, this is where they get all serious and they say you have to shake it vigorously, you have to shake with a smile. They have all these like fancy techniques and they have this really strategic body motion that they do with this. It does not matter. All you want to do is shake the shit out of the cocktail. I apologize for using that language. I'm probably not allowed to do that on a charity channel. But you want to shake the cocktail so that you get the dilution, so that you get all of these ingredients mixed up, so that you get it really, really chilled. And honestly, the shake with a smile thing is really never a smile. It's more like an awkward face to show that you're exerting yourself and really trying. And I think that's the biggest point of it. So you kind of doesn't really matter, right? You have fun with it.
Kris, can you maybe shake the Footloose, possibly?
I don't have the stamina that I once did.
Okay.
I can't even dance to Footloose anymore. But thank you for that. Okay, so now that we're shaking, we're ready. I'm gonna grab my cocktail serve, my glass. I'm gonna fill it up with crushed ice because very refreshing summer cocktail like this. I feel like crushed ice is definitely the right serve. It makes it feel more summery. It makes it a little easier to drink. It makes it more enjoyable in my opinion. So again, you're going to strain it. A lot of people. Go ahead.
We have a couple of questions in the chat. April, if you can help us with that, that'd be awesome. We're going to disappear for a minute and we'll be right back on screen with you.
Sure.
Oh, how would this cocktail be using rye instead of bourbon?
A little bit spicier, but very functional. It would work for sure. I like a high rye bourbon. Confiscated is a high rye mash bill bourbon. It's not as spicy as a typical rye. It's not as dry as a typical rye whiskey is going to be. The acidity and the dryness of a rye whiskey won't necessarily be as cohesive as it is with a rye-based bourbon, but it would still work and be very, very good.
Confession, I'm actually using rye whiskey, so I'll let you know how it tastes as well.
Yeah, it'll work. It'll work. You'll be fine. A lot of people go through before they actually pour a smash, and they try and double strain because they don't want mint leaves. They don't want any debris or anything like that to come out of these things. Again, I love mint. I'm not going to double strain. If there's a couple of pieces of broken up mint in my glass, I'm not mad about it. So you're going to just pour it over that crushed ice. And then really the star of the show and what's going to make people look at you and say, I kind of want one of those when you're drinking it, the mint, the garnish. So you grab a full sprig of mint before you put it in there because this is the aromatic as you approach the drink. This is what you're going to smell. Smell is part of taste. You want that present. You need to release the oils in here. So a little industry trick, you slap it on your hand a couple of times, you release some of those oils, you twist off the stem. That's not enough mint in my opinion. I like mint. I don't know if I said that yet. So get the mint in there. There you go. Bourbon smash. Okay?
Cheers to you.
Cheers.
This one is really good, Kris. Really, really good.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you. This is for people who don't drink whiskey typically. Like my wife and I during the pandemic, because we've run out of everything to talk about and we've done as many puzzles as I'm ever willing to do in my life, decided that we were going to start doing Thursday night cocktail night. She hates whiskey. I made these and she's going to come over and she's going to drink this right now.
Super good. I'm handing mine off to my spouse on the other side of the computer as well.
I'm just drinking. And I'll go back to the old fashioned. So whatever suits you, right?
The whiskey lover in our house is right over there, so it's a good time.
I hope he enjoys it. Okay. Any questions that I'm missing before I move on to our fourth and final, and probably the most popular and most important?
One other, the biggest other comment in the comments box is that you should keep the cool cocktail guy part of your name.
I appreciate that. I'm going to make some new business cards. I'm going to change it. It's going to say Kris, the cool cocktail guy from now on. I love it.
You should use all K's though. Kris, cool cock, all K's. Oh, you can't use. Oh, never mind. Never mind. I shouldn't say anything. I apologize.
It may already be branded.
Okay, on to what is the number one cocktail in the world still to this day, even as vodka has come and gone and bourbon has surged and all these White Claws all of a sudden a thing and people are drinking White Claws in bars that, hey, I don't get it, but it is what it is. People do it. So this has stand the test of time more than anything else. The Margarita is the number one cocktail all across the world. It's the number one searched for cocktail on Google. It's the number one search for recipe on Google. Nobody knows how to make them right. for the most part. Everybody says, oh, yeah, I'll make a margarita, and then it ends up being something like a watered down tequila with a lime on it or whatever it is. But it's a very, very simple cocktail. It's the #1 cocktail in the world. Anytime you're having a party, you can say, I'm going to make margaritas. You will not see a frown. It's the best way to get people like, oh, yeah, okay, I'll have a margarita. I honestly, I don't think that I've ever had a party and said, I'm going to make margaritas and had somebody say, no, thanks, I'm good. It just doesn't happen. So we're going to go ahead and make a margarita. A classic Cadillac margarita, the right way. This is what you do. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. But you just got to do a few things. You got to use good tequila. You got to use 100% blue agave tequila. Don't buy the cheap stuff. I'm not going to name any brands because I don't want to brand bash. I never know who I'm going to be selling tomorrow. So I won't do that. But you want to buy 100% blue agave tequila. Don't use cheap triple sec. Use high quality orange liqueur like Grand Marnier, Cointreau, something like that. And use real lime juice. Don't buy the mixes. Don't do anything else. It's not hard. This is gonna show you exactly how to do it. Okay. So first things first. Again, we're gonna use a shaker. We're not using any more mixing glasses. You're gonna take your cocktail shaker. You're gonna start with your tequila. Which I'm gonna use Villa 1 Reposado. I like Reposados because they have a slight aging. Reposado by law has to be at least three months in a used bourbon barrel. So you take some wood characteristics, you take some oak, you take some vanilla, some of those things out of that barrel, and it blends really nicely with the forward pepperiness, forward fruitness, fruit flavors of actual agave. So I like Reposados in my margaritas. I like Villa 1 very much because it uses agave from both the highlands and lowlands. So 2 different regions produce agave. In Jalisco, Mexico, you could actually get them from 5 states, but the vast majority of them come out of Jalisco. The highlands and the lowlands produce very different agave flavor profiles. So one of them is very, very earthy. One of them is very peppery. The other is much lighter in flavor. It's much more fruit forward, much brighter spirit delivery. So this one uses agave from both. You get an incredible amount of complexity from this stuff. You're going to use 2 ounces of tequila.
And I'm in a shaker or I'm in a stirrer cup?
You are in a shaker. I'm using a Boston shaker again. I just didn't want to use the same Boston shaker. So I'm using this one. It's just a pint glass instead of another silver.
What's the name of it again, of the tequila? What's the name of the brand they're using?
Villa 1 tequila.
And Kris, similar to earlier, is there a good substitute if we're not putting tequila in our cocktail for our younger audience or anyone who's abstaining?
Yeah. So again, this one, it's a spirit is typically the superstar, but honestly, in my opinion, the best thing that you can replace that with, if you're going to make a lime orange cocktail, a mocktail essentially, fresh lime juice, orange, a little bit of orange juice, and limeade ends up delivering a very similar flavor without the spirit bite of it. But limeade is really probably your best bet in there. One of the most common things that people use in place of tequila or in tequila cocktails, squirt is usually a very, very popular replacement for any of those things. But if you're shaking any kind of cocktail, you do not want to put anything carbonated in there, because as soon as you shake, and this has probably happened to everybody. It's definitely happened to me. As soon as you shake, one end of the cocktail shaker is going to fly through the wall behind me.
Good call. Thank you very much for the information. We appreciate it.
Yeah. So again, high quality ingredients make a high quality margarita. I'm using Grand Marnier. You want to use 3/4 of an ounce. And then again, fresh lime juice. So I already cut my lime. I'm going to squeeze the lime juice in there. You can either do 3/4 to an ounce of lime juice. In my opinion, the juice of 1 lime is always sufficient. If it's a little bit more, if it's a little bit less, you're never going to go wrong with the juice of one lime in a margarita if you're making them 1-to-1.
And you don't have ice in there right now, correct?
I don't. I'm going to put ice in there in a second. And I had tongs. I was trying to be fancy and not be a caveman with this, but the tongs don't fit my giant ice cubes. So unfortunately, luckily I'm only making them for myself.
We're just envious of your giant ice cubes.
Yeah. So you put the ice cube in there, and then depending on how sweet you actually want it to be, agave nectar. So this is a sweetening agent, just like simple syrup, just like the Demerara syrup that I used earlier. Agave nectar is really the best possible thing that you can use to add a little bit of sweetness to your margarita. You can use up to a quarter, half ounce. I put a couple of drops in there. I don't think you need more than that. Again, I think that tequila, fresh lime juice, that should really be the star of the show here. So top the shaker, flip it. Again, doesn't matter what you look like. You want to do a little bit of like salsa hips while you're doing the margarita, that's fine. That's okay too. Doesn't really matter.
Well, you
just want to shake it. Make sure in a margarita, get the lime juice and the acidity, that you're getting it really good and cold. And then again, I'm serving mine in a rocks glass. I actually counted the ice cubes perfectly. Last cocktail, last ice cube, which I'm very impressed about. Nobody else probably is. Actually, before I do that, I almost forgot. Everybody likes a salt rim on a tequila glass, on a margarita, right? So what you want to do, lime wedge, do 1/2 of the glass. Don't do the whole glass. Gives a nice visual. A lot of people like salt. I choose to use tajin or tajin. I don't really know how it's pronounced properly, but it's a Mexican spice blend and it's delicious. So all I'm going to do is get a little bit of lime juice on one end of the glass. I'm going to take that. I'm going to rub it in there. You get a nice little rim on the glass. Put your ice cube in there. And again, strain the margarita in there.
Oh, that's pretty.
And then if you really, really want to bring up the visuals of it a little bit, take your remaining lime wedge, press half of it into the tajin, whatever it is. So you got that. Lay it across that top ice cube. There's the perfect Cadillac margarita. This thing is, trust me, it will never disappoint. It will always be the star of the party. Nobody will ever come back and say, I don't want to go back there. They got terrible drinks. I'm going to just White Claw from now on. This is it. This is where it's at. So,
cheers.
Cheers, Kris. That is delicious.
That is really good.
And it's simple. What I wanted to do today, because nobody's going to look at, if I could have came up here and I could have said, oh, we're going to make paper planes, we're going to make aviation, south sides, all these different very eccentric cocktails. We could have used egg whites and whiskey sours and stuff. But realistically, people at home probably aren't doing that very often, or maybe you'll do it once and then never do it again. These are staples, right? A margarita, an old fashioned, a play off of a martini, and a whiskey smash for the summer. Sooner or later, I'm in Chicago. I don't know where everybody else is, but sooner or later, Chicago summer is going to come, and we're going to sit there and we're going to drink outside because that's what we do. And these are all 4 cocktails that everybody will constantly come back to. So I hope that you guys, you learned something, you enjoyed a few drinks. I really appreciate the opportunity to get in front of you guys and make some cocktails. I know I had fun. I probably imbibed more than I'm supposed to, but my 10-month-old is upstairs with a double ear infection. My wife is taking care of him. I'm down here drinking. So, you know, it's
Kris, I have one question for you. Tara was asking, why the different glass types? Because you know how much we drink over here. Not that much. So why the different glass types? Explain that. So honestly, I think the vast majority of that is visuals.
if you buy into cocktail books, if you buy into like true bar etiquette, every single cocktail has a different dedicated glass. Cordial glasses, old-fashioned glasses, cocktail glasses, coupes, whatever. They all have a different glass. It doesn't really serve the same purpose as like a wine glass. You're not taking anything else out of it. I think that you look at a margarita and it looks proper, or you look at an old-fashioned and it looks like it belongs. I think that it's just a visually, aesthetically pleasing part of the experience. I don't think that it's anything else.
Jim, that looks good. Oh my goodness, that looks great.
Yeah, the Kris margarita. So, yeah, that's my.
Sending the drinks to your wife.
Well, I'm not going to pretend that I didn't have a cocktail before we started.
Kris,
you were awesome.
It's Friday.
Kris, we have to say thank you. Thank you for starting our weekend right. You have a little one upstairs with an ear infection. We've got little ones here who are helping to take care of other little ones. Nick, I know you got people helping in the background. Tara, thank you so much for joining us. April, same on your side. The whole point of this is to give a introspective to our homes, but really to provide the more opportunity for home for our clients. So being a part of Taste of Hope Week in this really fun way when we couldn't get everybody together on a night like tonight to celebrate in person is really awesome. Thanks for giving us this opportunity to share in some beverages. We're really grateful. I'd like to ask all of our viewers at home, lift the glass of your choice, please. Put cheers in the chat box. Be sure to click the subscribe and like buttons. And we just want to say thank you to all of you for joining us here and supporting DuPage Pads for Taste of Hope Week. And we hope you enjoy an excellent weekend.
Thanks so much.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers to all of you. We will stick around for one more minute in case anyone has any last questions for Kris. You can throw them into the chat. Nick, you actually introduced us to Kris, and you've been on the committee this year working hard to make all sorts of things happen for this fundraiser. Thank you for being here with us tonight and celebrating in this as well. We're extremely grateful.
No, it's been my pleasure. And honestly, Kris, you're going to start getting some phone calls, I think, because this was fantastic. And we love you very much. So you did a great job. It was really so much fun. So we really appreciate you taking the time. And not that we want virtual events, but if we ever have another one, hopefully you will be there with us.
Absolutely.
I think when it's safe for all of us to get back together, Kris is going to have to be in that room with us. Kris, the cool cocktail guy, is going to be making us some cocktails at the next Taste of Hope in person.
Yep. That's going to be my next tattoo somewhere in here. Yeah.
Well, cheers to seeing everyone in person. Thanks so much for everybody joining us this evening. Please stay tuned for more fun throughout the week. We have meatball making and pizza tomorrow. And please check out our website for the details for the week. But it's been really fun spending time with all of you. And we really appreciate everyone joining us. And Kris, you are the cool cocktail guy.
Thank you.
You really are, Kris. Thank you so much. Everyone, be well. Enjoy your weekend. Tune back in for Taste of Hope tomorrow. Tune in for Sunday night dinner, steak, sweet potatoes, and broccolini. We have all sorts of great things in store for you. And if you're veggie friendly, do not miss Monday night. We're going to have a great time. Some coffee on Tuesday with family-friendly bingo. And we're going to have some awesome seared scallops and bananas Foster on Wednesday. So we hope to see you for Taste of Hope Week, and then join us at 7 p.m. on Thursday as everything comes to its epic conclusion. I hope you have a wonderful night. Enjoy your weekend, friends. Thanks for supporting DuPage Pads.
Have a great night.
Well, they saw you. They remember they get